How to stop avoiding difficult conversations. First of all, I want to talk about the opportunity costs that you're losing. Productivity-wise, you're afraid to ask certain questions. You're afraid to ask somebody to collaborate. You're afraid, and you want to figure it out on your own first. How much you're losing time and productivity. It's ridiculous over the years also. That's a habit that you have. You accumulate it. Also, how much money you're losing if you're running a business and you don't have those conversations with your employees, with your business partner, with your clients. But also if you have a job, the way you act, you're really missing out on also promotion opportunities or other jobs that you could find that would make you so much more money. Simply just afraid to have certain difficult conversations, which also shows your greatness. So productivity-wise, money-wise, this is ridiculous with some people that I'm talking to, where we actually see what opportunities they're missing and how much tangibly money they're losing. But also in your relationship, if you're not having those difficult conversations, that's not going to be a fulfilling relationship on the long run. And on the long run also probably you two won't be together anymore. If you carry around the relationship like that, you don't have those important conversations in a mature way. It's not only just about having those conversations, but also how you have those conversations. You're missing out on beautiful love on the long term, but maybe even on the short. So it's ridiculous. So great that you're here and you're starting to work on this topic. This is really important. Now, a lot of people I work with say, well, Marco, I'm afraid to make a scene. I don't want to bother others. It's not about bothering others. You don't bother your partner. You don't bother your colleagues or business partners or friends. At least that's not your actual intention. It's about yourself. You're egocentric. At the end of the day, you don't want to bother yourself. You don't want to go there, ask them for a conversation and go through all this crap because it's emotionally difficult. And I got it. It's for everybody emotionally difficult. But you're so afraid that you even then try to push this on somebody else. I don't want to bother those people. No, that's not the right thing. You cannot come up with random reasons why you shouldn't do this right now. But at the end of the day, you're just afraid. And the very first thing, if you want to overcome that and you want to have more of those difficult conversations, is to take accountability. You can sit on the couch and just be like, I'm afraid. I'm too scared. It's my problem, not nobody else's problem. So you take accountability and responsibility. And when you have more responsibility, suddenly you can change more. So that's the very first step. Even if you feel overwhelmed and say, yes, I'm a loser, well, you can change that. You cannot change others, but you can change you being too scared and afraid. And actually you can change that very well. Depression and anxiety are the best aspects in psychology and psychotherapy that you can change most effectively, most certainly. So there's lots of hope here. So great that you're digging into it slowly. That's what I want to say the very first time. Now, you're afraid to lose somebody probably, right? You don't want to have those difficult conversations because you're afraid that you might make them angry, that they might leave the relationship, that they might not like you in some way, and that's why you look away. And as a result, this conflict in a subtle way is building up even more, or it just stays there. And the thing with not with anger, but with anxiety, and you have a sense of anxiety and you're anxious, is that when you look away and you avoid it, in your mind, it becomes bigger and bigger. And you're so afraid, and if you actually take a closer look, it wouldn't be that big. But you're not taking a closer look, you're also waiting over time, so the conflict potentially gets even bigger. So it actually gets bigger, but not as big as you think. And that's, by the way, already the second hint. What you can do with getting over that is to take a closer look at what is causing anxiety within you. You can do this with visualizations by just taking a closer look. Think about what is the worst case, and would I still breathe and survive if all this happens, even if my partner leaves me? Would I still live? Like, what happens? Like, really take a closer look and envision the worst case. What would it be? and also eventually noticing that probably it would be okay. Or ask yourself the question, is that really the worst case, realistically speaking? It's also helpful, but generally taking a closer look. Anxiety is often something to do with unspoken. So speak it out. Like, what are you anxious about? Just simply talking about it. What am I afraid of? Very important. And talking about this also means taking a closer look. So that's the second thing. So the first thing, taking responsibility. You're afraid. Secondly, take a closer look. Just by sitting on the couch, you can take a closer look and envision worst case, what's going on, what am I actually afraid of, make a list of conversations you're afraid of. And then the next level would be even to just have those conversations, because then you're facing them and you notice, oh, it hasn't been that difficult actually at all. Okay. But also preparation, of course, is also very important. Yeah. But generally, again, I want to tell you how dangerous is what you're doing these days, because if you're suppressing yourself, your own needs, because you're so afraid, you're also, in a sense, in a subtle way, getting angry towards yourself because you're suppressing your own needs. So people who are angry and are afraid often have a lot of suppressed aggression. And if you don't work this out, at some point, maybe even in the future, you're going to have some depression or some subtle depression once in a while, because depression is also, again, very much connected to suppressed anger. So you're anxious, and if you don't let this anger out, you're often slipping down even to depression in the long term, and just, having a very low self-esteem and everything. So here's actually also the third step. This anger that you maybe already feel in a subtle way, attach to it. Don't push it away. In this case, it's not always like that, but in this case, anger is very good and maybe even helpful. Let this rage out in a sense. Use this as fuel, use this as an energy to have the conversation. But be careful. Don't get in this rage mode. There are actually some people who then just swing the pendulum the other direction and then they open up conflict in a very nasty way. You don't want to be like that, but use that energy and transform this aggression into deliberate courage. That you become more courageous and you actually call people out and have those conversations that you want. Right? So taking responsibility. First one, taking a closer look at what you're anxious and afraid of. And then using this emotion, the subtle aggression, use this. Think about all the opportunities that you missed out the last years and become angry about it. And then change something. That's very important. Now, how do you do that? The style that you're having, which is avoiding difficult conversations, that's authentic. It is a style that you learned in the past. Figure out when you learned the style and how, who was responsible for that in a sense. And you don't want to be mad about this person, but you just want to figure out what was the circumstances, why was that. And there you can do great depth psychology or inner child work. Just make sense out of what happened. And it helps you to also be more compassionate with yourself, because everything makes sense the way you are. Connect to your own voice. That's a very cliche personal development advice, I know, but take a closer look here. It's actually very important. Listen to your own voice, and it doesn't shout, it whispers. And you haven't listened to it for a while because you're always at the outside, because you're afraid, right? This emotion, being afraid, is towards the outside. You don't look inside when you're afraid, you look outside, because that's where the danger is. You're afraid. But start to listen what you want, what you feel, what is your intention of this relationship, what do you want to get out of it, what kind of conversation therefore you have to have. So listen to your own desires. Also important. And in a sense, just start making the first experiences. Having the first difficult conversations, starting with the easier ones. And learning that you actually can have those conversations, right? Exposure therapy, you're exposing yourself to the threat and you notice, oh, I'm still alive, it works. That makes you learn something new. You learn difficult conversations can be maybe even helpful, maybe even great, can be maybe even be a positive game changer, or are not having this worst case scenario effect that I used to think. Right. So a lot of points. If you want to figure this out properly and you once and for all want to stop being this annoying people pleaser and not fall also into those habits over and over again, then I suggest that we talk. There's a link below, schedule a first call, then we talk quickly for like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, just check whether this generally works. And I also gather some more information from you. And then we have a second call where I prepare, we have a full hour strategy call, and we build up together a very detailed, very helpful strategy that would help you to overcome being a people pleaser. And all of that is for free. Of course, at the end, we can then talk about whether it would make sense to make use of this strategy and do this together and then work together in the long run, do this together. But there's no need for it. The first 2 calls are still for free. Just value that totally makes sense to you. That's going to be so helpful and already a game changer to becoming less of a people pleaser. Because you can watch a lot of YouTube videos, but that's just speeches to everybody. And if you want to handle that, you got to be a bit more specific towards you. What do you need? Advice is always also context dependent, depends on the individual. So let's build a strategy together and let's make sure that you're not going to be an annoying people pleaser anymore. And you're having those difficult conversations. Really, the greatest people that I know, and also the most successful people, are good at having difficult conversations. They're very good at them. And honestly, the people I've seen that are acing difficult conversations so much is that they make those crisis situations and turn them around. After the conversation, days after, they even used this potential problem as an opportunity and the relationship got even better. The business relationship, the romantic partner relationship got even better because they resolved conflict together. They're more optimistic together. And they also learned that, hey, if I talk to you, maybe your friends, your colleagues notice if I talk to you and if we have those difficult conversations, he's actually going to be, in a sense, very reasonable, very mature. So they even respect you more. You get more respect. Yeah, game changer. I think I made enough advertisement for being not a people pleaser anymore and having those difficult conversations. Again, if you want to deal with that properly, just schedule a call with me. Otherwise, I'll talk to you soon and have a good day.